World News America. Ambushes in London, fire extinguishers in Paris, and now more trouble on the way. The Olympic flame is in peril, but China has said that no force can stop the torch relay across the globe. Undeterred, more protests are expected tomorrow when the flame finally travels through San Francisco on its only North American stop. Our sports editor, Mihir Bose, reports on the growing controversy from the torch's final destination in Beijing.
The Beijing torch arrived in San Francisco tonight, the next stop on its disastrous journey round the world. There have already been demonstrations on the Golden Gate Bridge, and should there be more trouble tomorrow, this could be the last foreign city it visits. Peace and harmony were meant to be the watchwords of this gathering of the Olympic movement in Beijing, with a pat on the back for the Chinese 4 months before the Games. But that tune has dramatically changed. Talking to IOC members here, I have been told that China was repeatedly warned by high Olympic officials not to have an international torch relay. The talk here now is that the Olympic brand has been damaged. There's a growing feeling that should San Francisco go the way of Paris or London, Beijing's international torch relay may have to be curtailed, if not cancelled. A decision on that might be taken later this week when International Olympic Committee President Jacques Rogge chairs an executive board meeting.
We'll discuss this and we'll see what we have to look at after this, I think now 6th or the 7th leg, and we'll see what kind of conclusions we have to take from that.
The protest began as soon as the flame was lit in Olympia, the birthplace of the Olympics. It intensified through its 31-mile ordeal through London.
Someone has tried to grab the torch from Connie Huck.
And the flame itself was extinguished during its troubled passage through Paris. All this has made even great Olympians question whether the journey is worthwhile.
Having seen what I've seen and witnessed on Sunday, it wouldn't be a bad idea. People that are lining the streets to see the torch for the right reasons aren't getting the opportunity to feel that Olympic spirit and possibly not even see the torch at all.
Jacques Rogge and the IOC must now decide how best to restore the tarnished image of the Olympic movement. Mihir Bose, BBC News, Beijing.
One of those using the torch's visit to the United States to express his protest against China's crackdown in Tibet is former Olympian Charles Alcruz. I spoke with him earlier today from San Francisco. Charles, thanks for joining us from San Francisco. I gather you were actually a member of the US Olympic rowing team in 1980 when the US boycotted those Moscow Olympics because of the invasion of Afghanistan. Did that hurt at the time?
Oh, it was a great pain and cause of sorrow for many people. There were 466 of us on that team, and many of those people did not get a second chance to compete and never did get to walk into the Olympic Stadium. I was fortunate enough to go through 2 more Olympic cycles, and in 1988 in Korea, I was able to participate in the Olympics.
So considering the pain that you personally went through in 1980, do you think that the Beijing Olympics should be boycotted because of Tibet?
No, I do not believe that the Beijing Olympics, I believe it is too late for those decisions. They should have been made years ago when the International Olympic Committee was considering different sites for the Olympics.
So you're saying Beijing should never have been chosen?
That's right. I think that was that point, and indeed I got involved in this issue initially. From that perspective, I argued that politically they had not earned the right, nor did I believe that awarding them would necessarily push them in that direction, and I think that's been borne out. But practically, I was very, very concerned that other athletes would be put in jeopardy, and the games themselves would be put in jeopardy by awarding them to a country that might be unstable.
So considering the fact that the decision was made that they are going to now be held in Beijing, what is the right way to go about? I mean, is the torch, the procession of the torch, however troubled, a rather handy way for people like you to make their protests heard?
Well, absolutely. Let me state categorically, I think once the games begin, once the opening ceremonies are concluded and the sporting events begin, they should be allowed to begin without political intervention. However, before the games, I believe that We all have a right. This is all political theater to some degree or another. The Chinese are performing their own political theater with their own messages, and I think it's entirely appropriate for citizens to hold the host country accountable and responsible for upholding the true ideals of the Olympics. Now, how they do that, I think, is important. I'm not for violent intervention. I think they should be peaceful. I think they should be dignified. I think they should be creative. And I think what we saw in San Francisco yesterday with the hanging of the banners from the Golden Gate Bridge is a good example of that. So, but I believe we have to be careful in stopping the actual progression of the torch.
Charles Old-Cruz, thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.